Hi, and welcome to our new reviews on Strange New Worlds now that it's appeared on Paramount Plus. I'm joined once again with the Nerdiest Prime crew, Alan O'Neill.
Hello.
And Namir Ahmed.
Hello.
And I'm Luckas Cardona. And this week I'm in Salt Lake City.
Chris. I need you back, Captain.
This is a brand new show with Paramount Plus. There just seem to be doling out these new series every 6 months. It seems like there's a new series for every kind of fan. Strange New Worlds is a prequel to the original series, goes back to the original adventures of Captain Pike and Number One. What do you guys think of this pilot episode? Let's start with Alan.
I liked what I saw right away. I've already been introduced to Captain Pike in the season 2 of Discovery, where he played a great leading man role in that season. He has all the charm and charisma of Jeffrey Hunter. Like, I feel like he rings true to Jeffrey Hunter's portrayal, and it's that everyman, leading man, kind of classical movie style Captain Kirk, like a John Wayne, type. And I like the feeling for and they're back to doing social commentary. Maybe it was a little on the nose in this one, where they're more usually subtle. But I liked it. I liked the tone. I think it has a lot of promise.
Yeah, I was okay with it. I mean, I think it's definitely the best of the new Trek. It's better than Picard, obviously. I mean, that's easy to talk about that. That's just like a truism.
Yes, I agree.
And it's better than Discovery. I like the way that it's going, but it has the same problems that I think New Trek has, which I have trouble kind of getting over, because it doesn't, it's set in a Star Trek world, and it's set, or a Star Trek universe, and it has Star Trek characters in it, but the things that for me made Star Trek, I'm not really seeing in the show. So I have to kind of do a brain switch where I'm like, this is not the Star Trek that I grew up with, and I'm kind of having trouble with that.
I enjoyed the pilot episode of Strange New Worlds. I thought it was very classic Star Trek. My first impressions of this new series, although it's a prequel to the original series, is it reminded me a lot of Star Trek Enterprise, and almost being inspired by that series as opposed to being inspired by the original series. And there's a lot to unpack, because we're talking about this particular episode, but we're as a pilot, as a story, but also this whole new show. And I have sort of a lot to say about essentially what is Trek today and what is this show. Like, the show is claiming to be a sequel, but it's really a reboot of Star Trek. And really, it's been a reboot since 2009. And in some ways, it's going back to something more classic.
Any sign of the Archer?
Getting her transponder ping on the night side.
Take us around, Lieutenant. Hail her all frequencies.
Well, my biggest criticism of New Trek, and this included, is that none of the characters feel like they're real people. Like, they don't feel like real three-dimensional characters. I think the show kind of travels a lot on people knowing already who these characters should be, right? Like, I don't really know anything about Pike, right? Other than what I've learned from the original Star Trek, like Menagerie, and it's got a couple of episodes in Discovery. They don't really do any work to kind of give them some depth, right? The way that they give characters like 3 dimensions is by giving them some sort of tragic backstory.
The memories of what happened are trauma inhibited. It's all fragments, bits and pieces.
I agree with Namir on that. Is like, it did start to seem odd that everybody had a tragic backstory where an immediate family member had died, or all immediate family members. And I'm like, man, this is like a Voyage of the Damned, because it's kind of funny. Like, I mean, Pike's backstory is really his knowledge of his future story. So, but that's very tragic and disturbing, and his like face is melting and stuff. It's not a pleasant thing for him to experience. And then, yeah, the security chief, her family was all eaten by Gorn babies, something. And then wasn't Ahura's parents also killed in like an accident before, and she couldn't go to like the Kenyan school because it was too much trauma attached to it. So there was a lot of it. I found that kind of odd.
Recommend deflector shields to full.
Captain, there is not sufficient.
Activate deflector shields.
Aye.
I liked the story. It was very Star Trekian. It was very like typical. We're going to a planet. We need to disguise ourselves because we can't violate the Prime Directive. Like the acting's really good. The sets are amazing. The visual effects are amazing. The music is good. So there's nothing wrong with the show or the episode. It felt a little humdrum. I like that kind of like the main character, aside from Pike in the story, was, I don't remember her name, but she's like the security officer. And Lahan?
Lahan. They like to put apostrophes and double letters in a lot of names in science fiction.
Noonien Singh.
And I picked up on that right away, that was her last name, and I was confused. I was like, is she related to Data or is she related to Khan? Which Noonien Singh is this?
I had the subtitles on, so I was like, oh, it's Khan. I get it.
And Noonien was Soong's first name, so it was totally...
Apparently, Gene Roddenberry had a friend during the war named Noonien Singh. And he was trying...
I told you that story. I told you
No,
that
you
story.
didn't. No, you didn't. The internet...
I heard it from the podcast, and I think I was about to tell the story, but I was trying to remember if I had told you guys that story, but I must have told you the story because you're kind of telling me the story back. But you can have this one. It's okay.
I'm generous.
Anyway, so he was trying to find his friend. And so he would name all these characters. I guess he only named Khan Noonien Singh after his friend.
Did he name Geordi after his friend too?
No, Geordi was named after a Star Trek fan called George LaForge, who was I think he was in a wheelchair.
Yes.
He was a big Star Trek fan, so he wanted to do a character that had a disability. So then he did Geordi LaForge with that was blind. I just realized that during these reviews, usually it's Alan and me like coming up with some like great Star Trek trivia, and Namir tries to say something, and I just like cut him off and try to steal the thunder.
At the knees.
I told you that story. All of your Star Trek knowledge comes from me and nobody else.
Okay, well, did you feel like you got the story out?
Would you like to tell the story?
No,
Oh
I
my
just want to make
God.
sure. No, I just want to make sure that because I interrupted you. I just want to make sure that you feel like you got to tell the story.
That's the end of the story. I guess he never it never worked, right? So he never found the guy. That's the end.
What I really liked about this pilot episode is that they decide, in order to save this planet from cultural contamination that's already happened, that instead of trying to like fix it by hiding knowledge of the Federation, or they do the opposite. He goes full tilt and kind of does aliens land on Earth kind of, and but only after I saw the episode that I realized, oh, he pulled the day the Earth stood still.
Mm-hmm.
On that planet, and because he had been watching that movie earlier on, and I thought, I think I really liked that. And then there was kind of a piece missing at the end, where he kind of plays the role of Klaatu, and says, you guys are messing up. You guys are gonna like have lots of problems, and that you can totally do that if you want, but you also have this other choice, and you could talk. And then the episode ends, and then you know what I mean. Then they just go back to the ship, and they're like, "Job well done." I'm like, "Wait a minute, but what happened to the negotiations? I didn't even get to shake hands or anything, or like perhaps we will discuss it."
There's a montage of of people on the planet, I don't know, learning about the Enterprise, and they're using projectors for some reason, even though they're a world civilization now. And then, so there is a little bit of something about the Enterprise changing their worldview.
Yeah,
But
I feel like that something could come up, down the line as well. I kind of got a vibe of the Sigma Iosians in the original series, that they are so influenced by this visit that they end up emulating the Federation, and then they come to join the Federation, or maybe even battle the Federation because they ended up ruining their planet somehow through their interference. So I don't know, it might come back, because it seems like they could go either way as a society.
they did have that last shot at the end where it looked like they had three like priests or something in a church, and one of them holds up like a paper cutout of the Enterprise.
Yeah, like they're worshipping them already as gods.
Are they, did they just create a religion?
That's what I think they might be going with that.
Yeah, like that first episode was fine. I mean, I think it was a good, introduction to the series, but it wasn't. There was lots of things that that just kind of seemed like missed opportunities and things that didn't make sense to me. But it was watchable.
Do you guys think that this is a prequel, or do you guys think this is a reboot, despite what Paramount is saying?
I think it's both. It's a prequel because it's a prequel to the original series, right? But it's definitely a reboot. Like they're gonna reboot. They're gonna remake the original series.
I wish that somebody would just go full in and go say, okay, we're doing prequel to the original series, or we're doing a something that's in that same time period, and I'm going to have sets that are like flimsy cardboard with like jujubes, lit jujubes, and just go for it.
This is the closest they've got, I think.
What throws me a little bit is how big everything is. Like the hallway is really wide. Like it's twice as wide as the Next Generation hallway. And the bridge is huge. It's like twice the size of any other bridge.
Pike's ready room, which is like the size of my house.
Doesn't make any sense to me, because in space you don't want to conserve, like in a submarine or a ship, you want to conserve space.
Right.
But at the same time, everything looks amazing, so I can't really complain about it looking
That's
amazing.
kind of that's sort of my point, right? It's if you had a decision between what makes sense and what looks good, they're always going to go with what looks good as opposed to what makes sense, right?
The whole point I'm trying to make is that I think that this show is a reboot, and I think that it's been a reboot ever since J.J. Abrams, and they should have just left it in the alternate universe, because Discovery is a prequel, and Strange New Worlds is a prequel, and it aesthetically doesn't make sense, and also it's not as interesting if you already kind of know where all these characters are going to go. Like, if Uhura's not going to die because she's going to go later in her life, she's on the Enterprise, and you know what's going to happen to Pike. So, and that's to me the problem with the prequels.
Why can't you feel that way? What's stopping you from feeling that way? Nobody's in the universe has really said that it's not J.J. Abrams' universe. That's only people who run Paramount, and they're not real Star Trek characters. They're just some suit who's just crunching numbers. So you can have it be in the alternate universe if you want. I don't think it matters. It's how you choose to feel about it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm choosing to decide that it's a reboot. At the very least, it's a reboot. This is a whole new thing. It has nothing to do with all the other shows. It's like a new thing.
Well, I don't know. I'm treating it like a prequel because I can. I have an intimate enough knowledge that I can, it's fun for me to watch and think of it as being. I mean, it's like the Klingons changing from guys with brown paint on their faces to a different forehead to these new guys.
I think it's absolutely a reboot. I mean, I don't know if anybody is really thinking that it's not, right? Like, you just look at like Spock's relationship with, T'Pring, right? I think that you can kind of make it work so that it fits with the original series, but it's much easier just to say, it's a reboot, they're doing it differently, and be okay with it, right? I think that makes.
Are you okay with
makes
it?
much
Are
more
you okay
sense.
with it? That's really the.
Am I okay with it?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it if it's a reboot. I'm not okay with it if it's a prequel. Otherwise it just means that they haven't they either don't care about the original series or they just didn't realize that it didn't make sense. And I don't know which is worse. But if you think of it like it's a reboot, then it's fine.
Which is why I'm thinking of it as a reboot, so I can just let it all go and enjoy it.
Yeah, and you know, for me, it's not none of that stuff. It does bother me, right? But I'm okay with it as long as they have good characters and good stories, and the characters do things that make sense, and aren't like magic hatting
So what do you say?
answers like they have to.
Magic hatting? Magic hatting?
They pulled the answer like a rabbit out of a hat.
Oh, I see.
You
Okay.
know what I mean? And there's like weird things where, and I think I mentioned this before. Like I feel like there's 10 minutes that just are always cut out of every episode because there are like threads that are left a little bit dangling. You know, the original shows were much better at, you know, they kind of tried to at least come up with answers that made some sort of logical sense.
I agree. I think the original shows are better, but I still enjoy this one.
I think they need that pacing now to attract new viewers because that's just what the modern viewer, you know, your average probably 20, 22-year-old, 18-year-old is watching. They grew up on all these Power Rangers and Pokemon and stuff like that. I mean, maybe that's our generation. I don't know. I could be dating myself, but you know, it seems like everything now. We watch a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie now, and it's just all CGI, bam, 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 and it's such a rapid fire pace of banter to set pieces, and I think that's just kind of what they're doing. They're trying to thread that needle where they're being, you know, true to the original concepts and the types of stories they told. Put that with fun set pieces, you know, where there's, you know, sneaking past alien guards and you know, escaping alien jails and things like that. So
I agree with you, Alan, but I don't actually think that's what they're doing, right? Because you know, people talk about banter in Marvel movies, but Marvel does it really well, right? Like they have this really good balance of having these moments with characters interacting, and the characters feel real because they're written well, but they also have like really slow, kind of introspective character building moments. And the thing about the Marvel movies is that when they try to be funny, they're actually funny. This show is not funny, right? Even when it's trying to be. So I kind of wish that they would stop trying to be funny and let the characters kind of be funny for them, right? Which is what worked in the original show and TNG, right? It was just funny because of the way that, you know, Kirk and Bones interacted, right? Or you know, or Data and Geordi, right? Like that stuff came out of the characters, and you can see a little bit of it in Strange New Worlds with Hemmer, because Hemmer's a really good character.
Okay, wait. Is that character? What's his name? First of all,
Hemmer.
Hemmer.
It
Yes.
sounds like
Hemmer.
like a
Like MC Hemmer.
Hammer time!
So he's a blind telepathic.
Okay, so
Andorian guy.
so my second question is, yes, is he Andorian?
He's the Enar, like a related species on the Andorian homeworld, and they live in seclusion and they have telepathic abilities and they're blind. They're like ice cave dwellers. They're like a minority on Andoria, or like a moon or something.
He's from Andoria.
The Romulans use that as their species to fly some drone ships to do incursions on the Federation.
So you know this
he-
because you watched Star Trek Enterprise and we didn't. Is that what's going on?
Yes.